Yo, what's up everybody, it's Fright Delight, and let's talk about Halloween 2018. This was in movies like The House That Jack Built, Ganaji Haunted Asylum, and Avengers Infinity War made, which is probably the best movie theater experience I've ever had up to this point. Now, Halloween 2018 follows Laurie Strode, not 20, but 40 years after the events of the original film, yet again running from the danger of Michael Myers. One constant positive I've seen is not following the Thorn storyline, and instead following Laurie Strode 40 years later, leading to a more interesting story. Another thing I noticed is that most people that enjoyed the Rob Zombie reboot really enjoyed this iteration of the character Michael Myers and his savagery. The majority of negatives I've seen was dealing with the characters of the film feeling underdeveloped and uninspired, almost feeling cliche to a certain degree. One negative that I didn't even think of until it was brought up is Laurie's entire plan trapping Michael into the basement. I couldn't help but laugh when I realized she had all these years to build a trap and didn't think to make an exit for herself. Her entire plan revolved around Michael getting into a small ass basement. Then trying to get past him through the only exit. When I think about it, it makes no sense at all. Now, with all the mixed reviews, which side do I fall on? Well, you'll figure that out after I recap the movie and end it off with a tier list. Now let's stop playing and follow Michael's escape. The movie starts out with two journalists named Donna and Aaron getting into Smith's Grove Sanitarium speaking to Loomis. Oh, never mind, it's his replacement, Dr. Sartain. They speak for a bit, letting Dr. Sartain know they want to speak to Michael before he gets transferred to a new facility. He takes them straight to where Michael's held up and tells them to inch up towards the yellow line. As soon as Aaron does, he pulls out the mask trying to provoke Michael into saying something. Michael looks back ever so slightly but keeps his head forward like a recovering drug addict getting provoked by a crack pipe. All the other patients start tweaking too, like, damn bro, you gonna share some of that? And this is when we're met with the intro card that got me hyped for the film, almost getting me out my seat.
Say something!
Sometime later that same day, the two journalists make their way to a house that's heavily protected, and when they press the intercom, a familiar voice answers the call. The person isn't budging on letting them through, but money speaks louder than words, and the two use a $3,000 bribe to open the gate. Donna and Aaron get through the gate, walking towards the house, and this is when my girl Laurie Strode opens the door, letting herself get interviewed by the two podcasters. They have a sit-down conversation that goes nowhere, and that's when Donna asks this dumbass question about her daughter.
They said you're an unfit mother. How long until you regain custody?
It was stupid because she already knew the answer to that question. Moral of the story, not everyone needs a podcast. Laurie isn't a fan of the question either and tells them to get stepping like Martin, but not before that payment. They leave, and this is when we cut to a few of our main characters. You have Laurie's daughter Karen, the granddaughter Allison, and her father Ray, which is supposed to be the comic relief but ends up being as funny as a pregnancy scare. They have a little family moment before Allison makes her way to school with her friends Vicky and Dave. While they're on the way there, they have a small conversation about Laurie, and this is when Allison clears the air and says Michael and Laurie aren't siblings, somebody just made it up online and people ran with it. In today's time where people don't pick up a book and read, I can see this happening. Allison gets to school and we meet a couple of other characters, her boyfriend Cameron and her homeboy Oscar. Everyone smooches each other before we slide to the next scene like I slide into a pair of panties. During class, Allison looks outside to see her grandmother Laurie waiting for class to end, and when it does, they link up and talk for a bit. Laurie hands her the $3,000 she got earlier so she can travel and live life. Allison doesn't accept it, but Laurie insists, so she invites her to the family dinner she's having later that night. Laurie's skepticism lets us know her relationship with Karen is strained, but she reluctantly agrees to be there to show support. Later that same day, Laurie gets back home to practice her shot at her homemade shooting range. Then later that night, right before family dinner, she waits in the car with a revolver in her hands waiting for Michael's transfer. As the bus pulls off, Laurie's traumatic memories start to flood her mind, getting her emotional to the point of tears. At the family dinner, Allison and the family alongside her boyfriend are conversing when she asks her mom if she's talked to grandma. Karen starts capping immediately and says, I called her, I just didn't pick up. Now, Allison can smell the bullshit, but before she can say anything, Grandma Laurie shows up to Karen's surprise. Laurie meets with everyone, then meets with that cup of wine before sitting in the chair and breaking down about watching Michael get on the bus. She decides she can't be there and storms off. Allison chases after her and comforts Grandma before she pulls off, and Karen slides up behind her and tells Allison about her time growing up, learning how to shoot and fight day after day until child services showed up and took her away. As they continue the conversation, a father and son are driving down the road when they approach the same bus Mike was on, crash into a ditch with all the patients roaming around lost. The father gets out the car to check what's going on, and after a while, the son gets out to check the scene too, checking around with the tool in his hand. He comes across a half-dead cop that jump scares him into sliding into the bus, leading to this darkly comedic scene, at least to my sick ass, where Dr. Sartain pops out from the back of the bus yelling, "Don't shoot!" but gets capped by the kid. The son rushes back to the truck and tries to take off, but damn, Michael out here killing kids now. My man been fiending for a minute. He had to get that off his list. Later that day, Deputy Hawkins gets a call to exactly where the crash was, and when he pulls up, he finds a dead body frozen and sex-faced like Peter from Family Guy. Then he slowly makes his way towards the back of the bus, finding Dr. Sartain barely clinging on to life. The next day on Halloween, Deputy Hawkins takes Dr. Sartain to the hospital and waits for him to wake up while he talks to Sheriff Barker about Michael's escape. Is it just me, or does Sheriff Barker look damn near like Duke from Jason Goes to Hell? But anyways, we follow Donna and Aaron visiting Judith Meyer's grave, but don't realize Michael is watching them from a distance. They slide to the gas station and Donna goes to the bathroom while Aaron pumps the gas, not realizing Michael's in the background following them. As Donna's taking a fat ass shit, Michael tries to shake the door, telling her to put some water on it because he can smell it from outside. Well, he doesn't say that, but he does empty his hand over the door, dropping teeth on the floor. And we find out exactly where he got those teeth from when Aaron starts looking for Donna. Sheesh. Michael's been dormant for 40 years and he's letting everything out, holding nothing back. Donna tries to escape by crawling under the bathroom stalls, and as she screams for help, Aaron bursts through the door ready to whoop some. Oh damn. Fight back, Aaron, fight back! Damn, it's too late for him. He has no choice but to look at his girl get choked out in his final moments. After Michael finishes up, he goes to the trunk and gets his prized possession and proceeds to make the hardest picture of 2018. Back with Lorie, while she's making a smoothie with the news playing in the background, she overhears the news anchor talking about the bus crash from the night before. She immediately grabs a few weapons and makes her way to her daughter's house, and we don't find out till Karen gets home and gotcha! Lorie chastises her choices of having low security around the house, telling her she needs to do a better job of protecting herself. It's actually good advice, especially if you're in the hood, but the execution is off, so Karen isn't hearing what she has to say. Then she says this shit while kicking Lorie out the house.
The world is not a dark and evil place. It is full of love and understanding.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is being willfully ignorant. You gotta work hard to be stupid, and it sounds like she's been working tirelessly. Anyways, later that night, we see what Michael's up to in this awesome one take of him about to take 40 years of frustration out on some of the townspeople, starting with this poor old lady. I love how he drops the hammer and grabs the kitchen knife like that's what he's been waiting on this whole time, which it probably was, but I'm just glad he didn't test it out on this baby he comes across. After dipping out the crib, he goes next door and looks through the window. Then without a second thought, Michael slides around the back and takes out another victim with ease. While he's secretly terrorizing the neighborhood, Alice and her mans are at a Halloween party having a good old time dressed as the reverse Bonnie and Clyde. That is until she gets a call from her homegirl Vicky telling her to slide that way after the party. She agrees and goes back to the dance floor, and as she does, she catches Cameron in the act kissing another woman. Allison walks away heartbroken, then Cameron chases her trying to say it's not what it looks like. She of course doesn't believe him, and when things get tense, he takes her phone and puts it in the jello thinking that'll make her forget, but all it does is make her even more upset leaving the party. Back with her friend Vicky, she's babysitting this kid Julie and put him to bed, then slides downstairs to see her boyfriend. The two suck each other's face for a bit before Vicky hears a noise and makes Dave go check it out. He ends up getting jump scared by Julie and rushing downstairs telling them that there's a man in his room. Vicky doesn't believe him and walks upstairs to investigate. At first she doesn't see anybody, but after putting Julian back to bed, she checks the closet one last time. Michael pops out and tries to commit murder on the first degree, but Julian and Vicky slide quicker than Michael can react. Unfortunately, Vicky doesn't have grip in her socks, letting Michael catch up and grab a hold of her. Julian wants to help, but wisely decides it's better for Dave to help her instead, because fuck can he do? As this is going on, Lorie and Deputy Hawkins pull up to the house unknowing of each other's presence. Hawkins roams around the inside while Lorie's on the outside scoping the scene until she spots Michael in the upstairs bedroom. She doesn't waste any time pulling the trigger, quickly realizing she shot a mirror and Michael's getting away. On the inside, Hawkins turns into a stormtrooper, missing a couple shots, but don't worry because as Michael escapes, my girl Lorie tags him in the shoulder. The gunshot alerts Hawkins to where Lorie is just as he finds Dave pinned up like a poster on the wall. He pulls up, almost becoming a victim of friendly fire, and not long after that, the cops show up along with Dr. Sartain. He's astounded to see Lorie stroll and introduces himself, but all he really is
The new Loomis.
well, while Lorie's busy taking the words out of people's mouths, Allison's talking to Oscar about her boyfriend, saying how he
gets drunk and gets belligerent and looks like an idiot.
damn, you just like your grandma. Anyways, Oscar starts to spit weak ass game to Allison talking about you deserve better. Oscar tries to kiss her like a weirdo and gets rejected. She storms away disappointed and Michael stands in the back looking at everything go down. Once the motion detector lights go off, Michael takes a closer look at Oscar, jump scaring him into running away. Oscar doesn't get too far and gets his unathletic ass stuck on the gate before getting cooked rotisserie style by Michael. The scream heard is picked up by Allison and she decides to go back and check it out. Well, that turns out to be a bad idea when she comes across Oscar's dead body and Michael popping out the corner proud of his work. One person that isn't proud of that is Allison, and she screams as she sprints out of the situation onto a family's doorstep. Once the white woman in distress call is made, the cops show up in mere seconds to help Allison out. Deputy Hawkins and Dr. Sartain hop out the car to assist in bringing her back to Lorie. Speaking of Lorie, while she's at the house with Kieran and Ray, they give Allison a call and get even more worried about her whereabouts. She brings the two to the basement and goes right to the armory where she gives her daughter a rifle, she takes a shotgun, then gives Ray some shit that wouldn't penetrate a pillow. While they get set up, up, Allison is on her way back to the crib with the help of Hawkins and Sartain. As they're driving, Hawkins sees Michael roaming around the neighborhood like shit sweet, then tells Allison to brace for impact as he runs him over. Sartain gets out to check his pulse, and Hawkins gets out to double tap him like Columbus in Zombieland. In a turn of events, Sartain pulls out a hidden knife from his pocket and stabs Hawkins in the neck. After he puts him down, Sartain starts treating Michael's mask like a trophy, and even puts it on himself, probably making this the lamest part of the movie. Once he puts Michael in the back seat and is about to pull off, he lets Allison know exactly what his plan is, and that's to bring Michael straight to Lorie for a reunion. He pulls off, running over Hawkins like a speed bump, but doesn't get too far before Michael wakes up and kicks the cage in, crushing Sartain. Michael isn't done yet, dragging him out the car, mad as hell that Sartain wore his mask, making it smell like morning breath on the inside. Allison takes this time to slide, but this doesn't concern Michael as he takes one last look at Sartain before he stumps on him like a roach in the kitchen. Right after that grisly display of foot strength, two cops pull up on Michael just to get killed off screen. Back with Allison as she's rushing through the woods with all her energy, she trips and falls right into the middle of Lorie's makeshift gun range. Well, this spooks her like I got spooked by my girl farting in front of me for the first time. Back at the house with Allison's dad Ray, he's playing with a yo-yo passing the time until he sees a car pull up on a security feed. As he leaves the house and makes his way to the police car, he comes across a gnarly scene. In shock, he backs up and doesn't realize Michael's right behind him and gets choked out, then gets his neck broken with ease. Lorie makes her way downstairs and sees the aftermath of Michael's murder, then tells her daughter to get to the basement as she attempts to protect what's hers. Michael doesn't give a damn about what's hers and breaks through to get to Lorie, slamming her head against the door repeatedly until she remembers that she has a shotgun in her hands, blowing off a couple of his fingers. Michael recovers for a bit while Lorie takes off to the basement, reuniting with Kieran, telling her to stay put and she'll protect her no matter what. She hears Michael make his way in and doesn't waste any time blasting off, seemingly in his direction, but no shells make direct contact. She makes her way back up towards the kitchen and makes sure it's secure before going from room to room, locking each of them up before moving forward. But as she walks upstairs and encounters clues that may lead to him being up there, she doesn't find anything. Oh shit! Michael pops out the darkness, getting the upper hand on Lorie, but she has a bit of strength on her and gets out the chokehold, grabs her knife and tries to hit him. But Mike weaves the attack and tosses her out the window. At the same time, Allison walks into the house looking for her people and distracts Michael from looking at Lorie's body. As he turns around, he finds that she pulled a him on him. Michael then turns his attention to the two downstairs in the basement. He lifts the entire counter off his hinges and Kieran puts on a show that could earn her a Grammy.
I can't do it!
Gotcha.
Lorie pops up behind him to finish the job, but Mike isn't having it and whacks her ass across the kitchen until she grabs a pan and whacks him back, making him tumble down the stairs. Allison is the first to rush up, and just as Kieran tries to do the same, Michael grabs her leg and tries to pull her back into the gulag. After a bit of struggling, Lorie and Allison get Kieran free and traps Michael into the basement with flammable gas. Unbothered, Mike looks up towards the three as the flare is lit and thrown towards him. The man doesn't even flinch, staring at him as they rush outside, getting away from the flame. The family makes their way outside, coming across a passing truck. They hop on board and look back at the flames, seemingly washing away years of trauma brought to them by Michael as the camera pans down towards the knife held by Allison, ending the movie. Alright homies, that was the end of Halloween 2018. A film that re-energized the slasher genre. Starting with some of the positives, the soundtrack to the movie was next to perfect. I love when the intro starts, almost sending you into a state of excitement when the theme comes on. The sound is the same with a bit of a twist, adding more bass to the background and a subtle drum almost mimicking a heartbeat fueled by adrenaline. The next positive I have is the directing. I know David Gordon Green gets his shit for his role in handling the Exorcist franchise and the last two Halloween films, but what he created with this film was something truly special in my opinion. Now, by no means am I saying this is the greatest directed movie of all time, but certain scenes like the one shot following Michael through the neighborhood and him looking through the window showing his reflection, that was a creative scene, and I'm a sucker for one shots too. I don't have any real complaints about the directing of this film. Most, if not all of the scenes blended well, making the story easy to follow. Another positive I have is pretty much a trifecta, which is the kills, Michael, and the mask. For starters, this is the best Michael's mask has ever looked, and that includes the 1978 version. Yep, I said it. Fight me. Honestly, this is a breath of fresh air having back-to-back films with great masks because it was pretty bad for a few films, and I'm just happy the series got back on the right track. His mannerisms almost mimic the original 1978 version while giving his own take, and even though there's only so much you can do with a character that rarely shows his face and only uses body language, James Jude Courtney excels in making an old Michael Myers even more menacing than he's supposed to be at that age. And he gave birth to one of my favorite Michael Myers shots up to this point. This is a side note, but James Jude Courtney's name is like a Samuel L. Jackson, Michael B. Jordan, or a pimp named Slickback. You gotta say the entire thing, otherwise it's not gonna make sense. Anyways, the next on the list is the kills. Michael has always been creative when it comes to the way he murders his victims, but in this film he ups the ante, giving us a variety of deaths. Even if it's a simple stab, it's shot in a unique way that even makes the most basic stab seem shocking. And the last positive I have is Laurie Strode herself. My girl Jamie Lee came back for a final run in the trilogy, and in this movie she didn't disappoint at all. The mental anguish she shows throughout the entire film is that an elevated version of herself from H2O, and I love it. I also love how she became a self-trained badass badass and wanted to protect her family, even at the cost of losing the sense of herself and the family she's trying to protect. Also, the relationship between her and her granddaughter Allison really sold the emotional weight for me. Even though I thought bits and pieces could have been done better to flesh out the entire family dynamic, I can say I'm satisfied with what we got. And that may be because this movie was such a breath of fresh air after binging through some mediocre films to where I'm a bit more accepting of what we were shown. Another thing that pleasured me more than my girl on ovulation day was Lorie and how she started to mimic Michael's tendencies towards the end. She disappears just like he would and then uses the shadows to her advantage. It was like the film was showing that Lorie and Michael were two sides of the same coin, which I thought was very interesting. Now on to the negatives, which I don't have many, but the ones I do hold this film back just a bit for me, starting with the Loomis replacement, Dr. Sartain. I can almost guarantee that the writers didn't know how to get Michael to Lorie's trap house, especially after debunking the sister-brother dynamic in the first 30 minutes of the movie. This is where Dr. Sartain came in and almost ruined the experience for me. When he stabbed Deputy Hawkins and then puts on Michael's mask, I almost teared up from frustration because of how amazing the film was up until this point. I'm happy it wasn't the entirety of the final act because he did almost die immediately after that, but the fact that this was even in the movie showed me that nobody could make a way that logically makes sense for Michael to get to Lorie. Shit, they could have just had Michael automatically look for Lorie after a while with no explanation, and I think I would have preferred that. In a weird way, it could have enforced Michael and Lorie being two sides of the same coin, but that's just me. Also, not every movie needs a Loomis. Dr. Sartain could have just been a character with little to no screen time, and one, the movie would have been the same, and two, it wouldn't have a sense of repetitiveness. Now, next on the list of negatives is the choppy dialogue, primarily from Karen.
The world is not a dark and evil place. It is full of love and understanding, and I'm not letting your psychotic rants confuse me or convince me otherwise.
That scene was probably the worst of it, but this goes hand in hand with another negative I have, which were the comedic scenes, Now, I can get down with comedy and horror, especially if it's done right, like in The Return of the Living Dead or Night of the Demons. But when it's forced, it almost takes me out the movie, especially when everyone is trying to be funny. Luckily, the film doesn't try to go too far with the comedy, but when they do put it in, it's almost at the wrong time. Another scene I can think of is when the old dude tried to backdoor his homie and get with Allison. After she dipped, he sees Michael in the darkness and says this bullshit.
Have you ever really liked a girl and you just couldn't have her?
Now, is the dialogue itself terrible? Not really, but the context and the timing of it when looking at Michael Myers in the damn dark makes this scene awkward. I can even make out if it was supposed to be a comedic or serious scene. There are a few moments in the movie like that make me squint my eyes in confusion or shake my head in disappointment. But even with all that being said, the negatives weren't good enough to make this ass or even a good time with alcohol. What it did was knock it down just short of a Fright Delight, putting it right into the close to the sun category. Is that too high of a rating? Maybe, but I enjoyed it. Well, homies, if you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for making it this far. Let me know what you thought about Halloween 2018 in the comments below, even if you disagree with me. And if you enjoyed this video and have any other movies you want me to cover in the future, put that in the comments below too. Go ahead and wait 40 years before you hit that like and subscribe button. Well, don't do that. You can go ahead and hit it now if you want to see more reviews like this one. And I appreciate y'all coming to a Fright Delight. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.